Travis, are you able to hear?
They're still on mute in the boardroom.
Okay, my bad.
Any of the direct action. Yep. Or can we, or the recommendations to the board of directors? Correct.
We would like to get opinions on things. That would be nice. We could at least take some.
Okay.
Some.
Well, I'll went over these in soon. All right. So welcome to the June 20th TTAC meeting. We do not have a quorum. For those of you online that may or may not have heard that. So we are going to go ahead and we're not going to run through and ask for voting on approval of minutes. I'm assuming we'll just table election of officers for now.
So, yeah.
Okay. We do have two action items that involve recommendations to MAPA's board of directors. So we'll go ahead and present those for those that are here. And if we have somebody come in late where we have a voting quorum, then we can take action. If not, we will have to take action on those next month. But let's start then with item C, which is amendment 7 to the 2025 TIP, and the court is going to present this amendment.
Do we want to do introductions?
I'm sorry, we would like to start today. Today's meeting with introductions. So I'm looking across the table, Morris, would you like to start us off with, please state your name, who you are representing today.
Okay, let's see if I can remember. Morris Hitching, Nebraska DOT, District 2.
Darian Stern, DOT District 2.
Carlos Morales, MAPA. Jared Walker, DOT Strategic Planning.
Eric Williams, February NRD. Court Barber, MAPA.
Jim Borner, MAPA.
Brian Guy, City of Omaha.
Ed Brooks, Metro.
Matt Cox, Council Public Works.
Todd Pitzer, Douglas County.
Christy Evans, City of Omaha.
Alex Evans, City of Pavilion.
And can we go back to Lindsay? Would you like to take us around this?
Lindsay Button, MAPA. Elise Manuel, MAPA.
Billy Clinton, Finance Director.
Joan Green, ENA consultant.
Okay. Well, with can we get our online folks to introduce themselves, please?
Scott
Travis,
Sewer, I would.
Travis Hall, my DOT.
Scott Sewer, Iowa DOT.
Dan Carpenter, finish.
Matt Knight, City of Bellevue.
Evan Schwartz with Metro Transit.
Taylor Sturbo with Bike Walk, Nebraska.
Alex Sick, HDR. That's everyone.
Is that everyone online? Yep. Lindsay said yes. Okay. With that, we are moving into item C, and court is going to present the amendment 7 to the 2025 TIP.
So for amendment 7, the bulk of the amendment is actually just rolling up a series of planning efforts into one line item. It's gonna make it a little bit easier for us to obligate funding with MAOT, to do these plans. We're creating an on-call list for the region so that we can deliver some of the Heartland 2050 mini grant studies. And so this is basically just taking a lot of those, rolling them all up into a single FY25 regional planning item, and then we'll basically be able to obligate those all in one go. Just kind of simplifying our process. We're still going to list them within that individual project plans we intend to deliver with those funds. But that's basically all we're doing with most of this amendment. And then in addition to that, Sarpy County received a congressionally directed spending award for the intersection of Platteview Road and 132nd Street. They're planning on doing some improvements in the intersection with that federal funding, so we're adding that project to the tip. Ultimately with about 1.4 million in federal funds in 2026 for basically for utilities, construction engineering. I'm not 100% certain that it's actually gonna happen in 26, we might end up with 27, but I know that there are some constraints on that funding, so we wanna make sure that we've got it programmed because they are able to in the next fiscal year. Any questions? And then as Todd said, y'all won't be able to actually give us a formal recommendation, but if anybody has any concerns or any issues with the amendment, we would like to have those, I guess, kind of from like a jurisdiction by jurisdiction standpoint to take to the board. But if not,
I guess just a quick question.
Yeah.
So that 1.4, that comes, that's not to use earmark, but is that doesn't.
That's what-
our current.
that's what it is, yeah.
So it's just.
Yeah, it doesn't affect any of the regional sources, it doesn't affect any of NDOTs. I know the way that I have it programmed in the tip, it shows that it's got an impact to the state's fiscal constraint, which really doesn't. I don't really have a great way of programming that into kind of how we adjust things in the tip. I'll see what I can do to make that a little bit more clear, presenting the amendments that it's not really affecting any local or state fiscal constraint. It is additional funding coming into the region, not tied to any programs that are distributed by formula.
Is there any change, just curious, on a project like that, would that change any requirements? Is there already getting tip funding for that project then?
No,
That's just that rolls into this project, or rolls into this program, but with outside funds.
Yeah, we basically have to show any federally funded project in the tip, so if there are outside funding or any kind of new, if it was discretionary or congressionally directed, it doesn't matter, but any of those programs, they projects would have to be shown in the region.
Thanks.
Yep. Mhm.
Are there any other questions or comments on that item C? Seeing none, we're gonna move to item D, which is the final 2026 tip, also presented.
So last month, we brought the draft 2026 tip to you, mostly focused on the new projects that were being added that were selected through for the regional programs of STBG, TAP, and CRP. Since the draft, I've done some work in there, I've corrected some project entry errors that were preventing records from showing up. This was just caught in state DOT review. They noticed that there was a few things that just weren't popping up. Updated Iowa's operation and maintenance numbers, updated the state DOT project list. We didn't have any kind of socioeconomic analysis in there previously, with changes in the federal administration. How we're presenting some of that information is different, so we had to come up with a new way of doing it, and I'll get into that in a moment, but that's been added. We also added a new project map as well as web map. Josh Corrigan, our GIS coordinator, he made a new web map for the tip that I'll show off a little bit too. We also added a pavement data collection project for Iowa. It's using about 50,000 of STBG. Matt, I don't know if we even got back to you yet on this, but we just heard back from Iowa DOT that we could just go ahead and throw this in there. It's supposed to be 100% federal, what we'll show it as. So that we're moving forward on that. We just got word back from Iowa DOT a couple of days ago. And then I also updated all the starting balances for regional programs to better align with the actual estimates that we're getting from the states. So the first thing we did was basically, instead of doing an environmental justice analysis like we would have been required to do in the past, we're looking at the areas of persistent poverty that are basically as defined by US Census for kind of like showing where the TIP projects overlap with those areas of persistent poverty. So the dark, the very dark, we call them tracts that are in there are the areas of persistent poverty. You can kind of see, it's a little tough to see this far away, but if you actually get into the tip, you can see the analysis a little bit better. So there's, I don't know, I think it's roughly half of our projects fall within areas of persistent poverty. So we're basically counting those towards, kind of like, we basically look at the total dollar amount that's being spent in and outside of those areas to kind of give a comparison, you know, are we providing support to some of these areas. Then we have a brand new web app, and I'm gonna open that up here for just a moment so you can kind of see what we're doing. We're still kind of developing this, but this is also part of the development of our new long-range plan. We're trying to kind of consolidate all of the kind of like the project work that we were doing. So both the TIP and the long-range plan, we want to have these all in one data set. So it's really easy for both members as well as the public to be able to go and digest kind of like what's going on as far as future transportation projects and plans. So if you kind of zoom in and start populating the actual projects that are listed in the TIP. We don't have all of the details in there for each of the project yet, but this is kind of how we want to move forward, where we'll have information on each project, and then we'll get into the actual project description details a little bit more in the future. We're still kind of working on how to put this all together. But the idea is we used to have a map in the TIP that it would number each project, and then there'd be a list below that showing which project it was. And it was just, there's so many projects on there, you can't actually figure out which project is which. Like the numbers are all crammed together, and it's just not really a very good way of displaying all these projects. So we're moving it to a web map. There'll be a link to it in the TIP, so folks can jump to it and kind of navigate what we've got going on in the region. But that's the idea there. And then that brings us to demonstration of fiscal constraints. So things have changed a little bit since, let's see if I can hide this thing here. There we go. Things have changed a little bit. We're still fiscally constrained. I did make some adjustments to the beginning balances, as I said, as well as to the actual spending authority. Something that I should have thought of when I was putting the draft together is that the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, that will end with 2026. And Iowa DOT recommends that we go ahead and just keep some of those projected spending authorities flat when we're outside of the, what do you call them, outside of an actual transportation bill. So we have made that adjustment, but it doesn't really affect our fiscal constraint. We still have plenty of funds in there to make sure that everything's constrained. Same is true on the Nebraska side. We are constrained through 2029, which is most important, and then as well as the illustrative years of 2030 and 2031. There's a little bit of funding hanging out there in the later years for Nebraska SDBG, so we'll probably do another call for projects here in the fall, but we'll kind of see what happens as we get a little bit later into the summer. I think that's it. This would be the motion we were going to request. Any questions on the final TIP right now?
Okay, seeing none, that kind of wraps up our action area, even though we didn't take any action today. So you'll see items A through D on next month's agenda. This is the time of the meeting where we open it up for a public comment. If there's anybody online or here who might want to make a comment, this is your opportunity to do so. No comments. Item F is the MAPA progress toward PM1 safety performance measures. And Jim is going to present that to us today.
All right, good morning, everybody. This is the 6th year we're coming and talking to you about our progress towards our safety performance measures. So as a quick reminder, MAPA has taken the opportunity really to take a look at safety regionally. We've worked with both Iowa and Nebraska Departments of Transportation, and we've established and tracked our own safety goals since the federal reporting process started 6 years ago. So quick reminder, the measures that we look at are on the left there. We rate is measured by volume, and that's in the 100 million miles DMT So 2 years ago now, we came to you when we knew we were gonna do the comprehensive safety action plan, and we said, we're going to set a policy target, and this is pretty unique, not a lot of regions do it. It is hard to talk about, and I'll show you in a couple slides why that is. But we said, through our board of directors, we're committing to 0 fatalities and serious injuries from traffic crashes by 2040. And so this is just that projection here, which allows us to set those targets, and this is for fatalities. A quick breakdown of what you're looking at here, the blue bars, the columns there are the actual number of fatalities you'll see in 2024. We knew from the city of Omaha's reporting that regionally they had experienced a record number of fatalities, unfortunately, last year, and we've seen the same 73 as more fatalities we've had since the period that we started looking in 2006, and fairly significant. So a couple things to note: 2020, 2021, we spiked nationally. Since then, fatalities and serious injuries have been dropping. That's not the case in our region. So just reinforcing even more so the importance of our comprehensive safety action plan we've just completed. We're actively working on finding funding for projects to address this trend. So a quick background: the last time we did our traffic report was in 2022. So we've been estimating VMT growth since then, 2% for that first period, 2022 to 2023, and then 1% after. So that's where these measures are going to come from. The measure itself is a 5-year rolling average, I should have mentioned. So that blue line is what we're actually measuring and establishing our targets, and so that's going to lag. So even though we have a growing VMT, unfortunately, our rate of fatality still went up as well. And so what does that mean? That means even as traffic grows, the number of the rate at which these fatalities are happening, unfortunately, is growing as well. And so we're over 1.0, which is kind of a pretty significant measure, again, for the first time since the pandemic. Serious injuries, again, looking at that, projected to 0 in 2040. This is kind of the better news story again. So lots of things that go into what has that outcome for a serious injury, and so we've seen this going down again to meet our target. That 5-year rolling average, that blue line would need to come down to that blue dot, and so we still have some work to do. But the good news is that we're not significantly away from the path we would like to be on to get to 0. Similarly with that serious injury rate, we do see that decline, which is good in the year. The 5-year rolling average is also unfortunately still lagging. So non-motorists, we don't have a means of measuring rate. We just don't have a way to say this is how many people travel and where they travel, either by bike or walking. But so we lump together, these are fatal and serious injuries for non-motorists. And again, unfortunately, we did see a pretty significant spike in 2024. So I'll get to some details here in a little bit about what we're going to do. But just as a summary, when we make the reporting, we are not penalized for not meeting our targets. The state departments of transportation are, and they have to take action. They have to spend basically all of their highway safety improvement program balance towards safety projects. We want to show this same measure and say where we're getting. So the meeting the target is what we would want to do. That's our goal. Better than baseline means at least we're making improvement upon where we've been in the past. So as we noted, we did not meet our So we did not meet our fatalities target. My apologies, I should have a check mark in it. But in some cases, like we talked about, that serious injury and serious injury rate were at least better than baseline, and overall we're making. So again, summary of those baseline years where we just talked about the projected values and then the targets that we're looking for, which is the period that we're currently in right now, 2025. So any questions, I guess, on our performance? But the next step for this, we'll bundle this up and send it to Nebraska and Iowa Departments of Transportation just as a reporting process. That's a requirement set upon us through Nebraska Department of Transportation, but it's just a good practice, and we'll share that with our Federal Highway Division offices as well. So we're in the final week here of putting together comprehensive or Safe Streets and Roads for All implementation and demonstration grant applications, implementations for the city of Omaha. We're working on a traffic safety improvement program, which is an idea of a little state safety funding opportunity for City of Council Bluffs. And we're also actively working to put together some Nebraska highway safety improvement program applications as well. And in a later section here, I'll give you an update on funding improvements that we're going to see from that program. But if there are no further questions, thank you for your time.
Okay. That concludes item F. This is the time for member agency updates. Morris, we started you for introduction. Do you want to start us off with agency update over there?
Okay,
Thank you.
let's see, Highway 50, 370 to L Street. We're looking for July completion and all that. All the bridge work's done, Harrison Street intersection is done and it's working with the double turn lanes. They're finishing up the asphalt overlay. I think they had the top lift of the southbound lanes from Harrison to the bridge north of Giles. And July completion. Dodge Street, 192nd. We're looking to complete that in August. Most of the work is done. We've got them in the diverging diamond setup. We've only got one lane going each direction right now. Now we're doing traffic signals, and then the last thing we'll do is the striping. So we're getting close there. Dodge Street, Skyline, 168th. We're doing all the bridge. Right now, I think we're 144th. We're doing the bridge approach replacements and deck repairs. 204th Street Bridge, we're done there. Now we're down below, doing the shoulder work. And let's see, and we're putting in rock embeddment. So that's ongoing. Let's see, Highway 75. Oh, okay, Highway 34 to Q Street, that's underway still. It's night work. We're down to sawing and sealing joints. And the last thing we'll do is put a concrete sealer on it. The Missouri River Bridge, obviously we opened that up for the College World Series, but Tuesday we go back to work on those two. The 12th Street exit or westbound 480 exit to Dodge, that's open. That'll stay open. We're putting in high mast towers just about every interchange along 680 and all the way down to the Mormon Bridge. So we're taking out the old, very tall mast towers and putting in, they're actually not quite as tall, but probably more of them.
120 foot to 80.
Yeah. Let's see, I-80 westbound, Q to Giles. They've added that lane, they poured that lane from Q to the bridge by the airport. And they're widening the bridge over the Patio Creek there. You must know that westbound is reduced to 2 lanes. The Harrison Street Bridge the painting has been completed. Now the next section of that is I-80 westbound off ramp to Highway 50. They poured the new outside lane westbound from the bridge over Giles to the west end of that. They paved the left lane tie-in up at 144th. And once again, we got the traffic reduced to 2 lanes. Another one is Highway 275 from they call it Dodge Street to Nebraska 64. We're doing pavement repair and sealing of joints. Right now, they are working on the northbound lanes from the viaduct to the Elkhorn River. We're pretty much done there. Now we've just moved farther west. That'll also be, we're also gonna repair the high friction surfacing on the Elkhorn Viaduct. They haven't started that yet. Let's see, Highway 50 and 31, out there by the Platte River, that work is done. They have one thing left to do, and it's stripe it. The striping truck keeps breaking down, so I'm gonna call that done. We got some more Dodge Street work from 156th to 132nd. That's underway. We're up there at 132nd, it's a deck repair with asphalt overlay and membrane when we get done, approach replacements. They're proceeding with that at 144th. 132nd Street Bridge, the inside northbound and southbound lanes are closed for deck repairs and approaches. And we got one that started Highway 92 and 275, just west of West Center. We're jacking some pipe under the roadway. We're not really bothered, a lot of traffic there. So just to let you know, we got another Dodge Street job starting in July, 161st to 127th. That's actually down on Dodge Street. That's night work, pavement repair, mill and overlay. And we've got another one starting in July, 680 from Fort Street to Missouri River, pavement repair. That should be night work too. And that's it.
Nothing for me. There's nothing special this.
I think staff is gonna talk about project selection and our MPP, which is coming up and coming due to our state counterparts.
From our area, we are getting ready to launch our state freight plan update. So that'll take about 18 months to 2 years, depending on how it takes to get approved by the federal highway. Could be some interaction. I would expect some interaction between our consultant MAPA, maybe some of the local jurisdictions as well. On that, we are just launched what is no longer being called our Complete Streets policy work, but it will still be the same thing. We're just not calling it that. Tentatively, it is the sidewalks and crosswalks policy, though I think we're still wordsmithing that one a little bit. And then we also have a connected and autonomous vehicle study that we are doing. That's a smaller study for now, kind of to set the tone for some future work. But again, with a lot of the things that are occurring in the metro area here, there could be some interaction between the consultant, some stakeholder engagement there. I think that's all I have.
No updates on federal funded transportation projects, but that already is coming to the end of our fiscal year. So if we have cost share projects that you would like to request reimbursement on, you have idea that next week. So I think several agencies have those, and I'll follow up with you directly about that. But glad to partner with you on those projects, and look forward to getting that reimbursement distributed.
We can wait until the end.
We're gonna wait till the end.
Nothing from me on that, Christie. Let's see.
I do not have anything right now. Just to give everybody an introduction, Sherry Levers used to fill in for Lauren Sensei from Metro. Sherry has retired. Ed is the new grants, I think.
Right, titles, grants administration or grants administrator.
Grants administrator.
Grants guy. Yeah.
So he'll be joining us at TTAC from Metro.
Thank you.
Our West Grand reconstruction project is well underway. We're pushing hard to get all that work completed this year. So, but that's the goal. And our 9th Avenue Bridge is still delayed due to pole relocation for a transmission line. It could be a total of a year delay because of that power.
You may see me on the news later today. One of the residents near 160th and Ida has figured out that our new roadway elevation is going to allow cars to potentially see into their backyard. Not very happy about that. So given that we're planning to pour concrete in the next week or two, I might be a little late for that change, but I'm going to entertain it and explain it on the news. We have met with Bennington School Bond Pass, as everybody knows. They are building a new high school near 180th and Military, and we have proposed a roundabout at that intersection. And they are somewhat amenable to the idea, as long as the city or the county will pay the delta in cost, which we've agreed pretty much to do. So that is some ongoing discussion they're presenting to their school board. Kind of excited about it. It would be a much safer intersection. I think it would work well close to a high school. So I did want to share that with the group in the name of Vision Zero and Safe Streets and all of those things. The county is trying to catch these things early on when they're built the first time to get them in place. So that was good news. Rainwood Road, we've got some grading and work going on with utilities out northwest area on Rainwood, and then 4th Street, where there's a new NRD dam site coming in. That grading and some of that utility stuff is getting close to the end. We did north 168th Street north of Ida. Unfortunately, one of our contractors did not get the trees cut down in time, and it's now nesting season. So we are probably going to be delayed because we're not going to take any more trees down until after August. I just learned that this morning. Anyway, that in a nutshell is what Douglas County has going on. If you want any more details on any of that, please just let me know. I heard Brian gave the baton off to you.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna start off, so congrats to getting a roundabout approved. We officially.
It's not approved just yet, but I think it's going to.
We officially shelved the design of the roundabout that's gonna go in on Thunderwood, get temporary easements. Really? The bummer. 250th and Cumberland is still under construction, closed. And then 48th Street is in the second year of construction, 15 years in Key Street. And then Saddle Creek Road is, or Saddle Creek is still open. They're still working on some side streets, so that'll stay open for a little bit longer while they wrap up the side street construction.
Okay, right, City Pavilions beginning their pavement repair program. We do that first, and then we do our UMass overlay projects following those repairs. So no arterials planned this year. So it's mostly neighborhood and collectors. We made our selection on our phase 2 of our 6th Street, our STPG project on 6th Street / Portal Road. So I have a consultant beginning to get under contract for that, the design and environmental phase. So that project with 72nd to 84th is underway, and then we made a selection from 84th to 96. So continue progress on that. So
I'm coming back to you, Jim, Gordon.
Thank you. All right, so last call, everybody, please, and your point about 180th in Military is a great example. We're updating our travel demand model, and historically that has been, as we come up to our then called LRTP, now called the MTP, our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We just kind of tried to grab and rush, and that's a lot. There's a lot going on, and our model as we transition to the Iowa State ISMIS, it is more responsive to a difference between a signalized intersection and a roundabout. It is seeing things, and we know that we want to give the best product to you all when you need to make use of the model. So all of these are very helpful. We also used to have a 1 in 6 project plan from each city, and that's not required by NDOT any longer. So in some cases, it's just harder to find projects from jurisdictions. And when we do get them, it's described in a manner which makes sense to you, and you'll say, I'm improving this roadway, but we may not know, in particular, those intersection traffic control changes that you're going to make. So if you all could, please, that are listening, take one last look and say, here's something that Jim would like to put in the model to make sure it runs well, but please do that and share it. If it's duplicative and we've already got it, we'll just say thank you very much. But we do want to make sure we capture these changes to capacity. So adding lanes or traffic control at intersections, even turn lanes, makes a difference to how the model responds. So we'd like to start getting that.
the range of time frame for
So anything that you've done since 2022, out to planning for 2050. So Yeah, if you think it's gonna happen, so there's a challenge in the next part I'll talk about. Our
28 years
metropolitan
now,
challenge.
just so you know. They did the math for you.
So
I was thinking like a 5-year.
No,
We are very
Oh,
interested
right,
in
yeah.
the next 5 years.
we are very much so, yeah.
That's kind of the focus, but we do wanna know anything
Yes.
I think could happen.
And that's where we have to talk about things, you know, in the plan, is that funding committed? So there are 3 phases in the model, but we get those things that, you know, are existing, those things that are committed, and those things that are planned. And so if you want to have something illustrative, there's a lot of really good examples. West Maple Road, for example, is gonna, right now it's an active project. They want to model, that's gonna be illustrative to an expanded system because it's not committed yet. But we need to know where those are, so at least we have our consultant team program them in, and so they've got to go in and make changes to records in network in the model. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen, it just means there's another future project there. And so if you say, I would like to run a scenario, it's already in there and we don't have to be trying to catch up things after the fact. So the funding source doesn't matter in that case. Local projects are just as important as things that have that federal funding. Your local projects, we probably don't have great visibility on, so those are the ones in particular we would appreciate your input on. And also for the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, again, if you see something in the future that's gonna be out there in the out years, important for the model, also important for our project tables and our looking at funding as we roll up all of that planning. Did I cover everything that you need?
I think so.
Okay, cool.
Jim, just a bookkeeping question.
Yep.
Let's just say Bennington calls me tomorrow and says, we're good with that roundabout, and then now there's other parts to go with it. Now we're gonna make military 2 lanes from here to here instead of 3 lanes because there's no need for a left turn lane. What's the best way to get that information to you? Just send you a little email and say, hey, we just had that.
Yeah, for now that's it. But our goal, and we're actively working on, is that map that Court showed you earlier, that will be a living and breathing thing, and even to the point where once we've put it and it's easy enough to use and we've given enough training, our goal would be is if you think about that, you would just make that entry online, and so you wouldn't.
So we would have authority, so to speak, or to be able to get in and edit your map. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And what we would really like is to find a way that kind of thing would be useful to the individual jurisdictions. Like if there's a way that we can help you with, you know, like in your planning processes, your project development processes, if there's a way for this kind of tool to fit with that, it just makes it so that you're not duplicating the effort, you know, so that we're getting the latest and greatest at a regional level. If it makes sense, it's just kind of a conversation we wanted to open up. That was part of why we applied for the federal discretionary grant to kind of look at some of our project selection process, because we wanted to develop a tool that would be useful for everybody in the region in how y'all do planning. And then there's not, you're not having to enter things in multiple places. It's just, this is kind of an authoritative regional source for data. And it's also providing a kind of a service to each jurisdiction, helping you kind of be able to look at them. Because if you could then take a map of your jurisdiction and use that in any of your documentation or efforts with the public, that's kind of what we're aiming for. We're trying to make this something that's useful for everybody. So we check all those boxes.
I see a huge value in that. If you guys want a testing partner or a teammate, whatever you want to call it, Scott and our IT guy is on top of that stuff. We've got some great layers, and we would like, you know, I will schedule, if you want to, when you're ready, I'll schedule a meeting with him and figure out how to integrate this so that we're not, because he's doing all this already within the county, and if we could do it once and it would update your system. Very useful.
Absolutely.
You know, let us know.
So it's, we guess it's like a web map, Esri-based web map. Maybe it'd be for planning efforts and like local CIP planning, would there be ability to like add notes or flags on certain sections?
Sure.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's kind of how we use for.
Yep.
Looking at me. Rather than if you have like modify attribute data or something like that, like might not be, but I'm sure the GIS folks know a little bit better of.
Yeah, I mean,
good.
a free text field could be just as easy as all the other data related fields in GIS. And that's exactly what we wanted to make it. the goal is to be interactive, and as you're doing your planning, it feeds our needs and vice versa. I mean, right now, a lot of those things are disparate, like traffic counts, for example. We get a lot of people that reach out. And if we can find one way, traffic count data is all there. Pavement condition is another great example of the more we understand regionally the needs that all of you have collectively, it makes it a lot easier for us to argue as well. So to have that conversation about need.
Okay, you think that's gonna go live?
We're probably gonna end up, so if this is something that jurisdictions are interested in doing, we'll probably have conversations about
Beta test.
what's the utility, you know, what do we need to have in the system? Because right now, we're just focused on the kind of regional planning stuff, like basically the entries that we would have in the tip, you know, the description, the name of the project, where it is, and then the funding for it. And what else would be useful as y'all are doing planning, like, you know, as you're talking about utility coordination and that kind of stuff, and being in that, and what other layers need to be in there, so you can look at that stuff, and then thinking out, like, we could also then use that for applying for federal grants and think, you know, it would all just be right there, any information you need, be able to add in safety analyses and all this stuff. You know, we're a regional planning agency, so we're looking out pretty far, so a lot of our stuff can kind of be high in the sky, but if any of this seems feasible and useful, that's what we'd like to pursue.
Yeah, I'd really be interested in that, because we have our GIS analysts do it all for our utility assets, but it's kind of hard on the transportation side, and we don't have much information, at least in
Right.
GIS.
And that's what we would love to improve that.
Especially as we get outside of our boundaries and the counties and other cities, so that'd be great. Yeah, let Billy or me know if you need some sort of help on that, we have with our GIS.
And I think a big part of what we're trying to understand and focus on is we as MAPA are trying to do our work more efficiently and also provide more transparency. And so part of what we need to do for the tip right now relies on emails. If we don't get an email from you, we don't know what's going on with your project, your tip. So if you have a problem and hey, you need money by next month and it's not in the tip, it creates a whole range of, hey, we need to have this emergency meeting to adopt a tip amendment. We're trying to avoid that. We're trying to make it easier for you all to communicate and let us know what's going on with your projects. That is kind of the dream scenario. These are just steps towards the end. So.
Yes. Okay, great. We'll go. I got one more slide. 2 more slides. Okay, so we're updating our traffic report, is what it used to be called. We're calling it the regional traffic patterns because we're looking at modes other than the vehicle. So, but really, what we provide in the service that are used by quite a bit, the map on the right is the interactive tool you can use online. But we basically smooth out all of your traffic count data, put it into a format where people can use it. So if a developer wants to know traffic counts, that's generally where somebody can find that data again, if there isn't a specific count data there. We also use it to do our vehicle miles traveled, so all that reporting that I talked about for PM1, for our safety measures, but anything that looks at growth in travel demand in our region comes through this process as well. And we're just starting the first stage of really looking at freight and other multimodal as well. So what do we need from all of you? Traffic counts, please. Again, boy, I'd love to say, here's the map you can enter it on. It's not there yet. We'll take it in whatever format you have and whatever type. 24+ hour counts would be preferred, but even if you have turning movement counts for a traffic study, we're happy to take those. This year's is great for us. We had Iowa DOT count. Basically, our District 4 got counted, or even bigger than that. This southwestern portion of Iowa was counted. So we have a ton of new data, good data. We'd like to lump that in with all of your new and good data and have a good picture of traffic growth. So we'll look for the same thing with transit ridership. So we'll be working with Metro staff. But if you have services within your communities. We'd just like to talk about them, both what they provide and if there's a need that you want to communicate that as well. And also with bike share and trail data as we fund. So sorry for the short notice. We want to get this wrapped up by October and just walking that back time, to get it to our board in October, we need to get. So again, if you could put that on your list of things to do, we're happy to work with whomever. It's easier just to put us in contact with your GIS staff or whoever does it. Happy to work with them directly as well. Final slide, sorry. Okay, so really excited about this. NDOT has changed the method in which they program highway safety improvement program. So for example, FY26, the math I'm going to do, and it's kind of hard to follow. And looking at 22 funding, 5 million goes directly to grade separation sub-program, and that's basically building a balance for viaducts to remove those at-grade crossings or to address the safety issues there. The second one, the state has committed to capping their program with some inflation, again at that rate. So it's 15 million before they take out their 10% local match. The remainder is going to go to local. So we've been working very hard to try to understand how do we apply for HSIP. That there are the method in which you compete, you have to work at a set of projects, and really the biggest challenge is you have to have a minimum of a 5.0 benefit cost. And so that's hard to do on projects. It's really hard to do in particular for systemic safety projects. So
5 times.
5.0
meaning 5 to 1.
5 to 1. Wow. Yep. So that's there. We are working. We worked really closely with the city of Omaha on understanding how that program works. The great part here is if a project would happen to slip and not be obligated in a funding year, the balance is going to come back to the local. So we want to have a stack of projects in the queue. We want them to be ready to go. And that's why we're working hard on a couple of them through this. They might even just be notional, but we're having our consultant team put together a range of projects, everything from a mini roundabout to some 28-foot top, which is that shoulder widening and safety features on the shoulders and the center line. So we've tried it. We put it through the highway safety committee, which is the first entry into approval. Anything under $1 million gets approved by that body. Above $1 million, it goes to the SSIP, which looks at the strategic safety. So we know how the program works now currently, and I can share that information, but it's on the website, NDOT's website. For the future, they've committed to a vulnerable road user systemic safety program, and that's going to look more like a TAP program application. You'll apply. It won't have those benefit cost restrictions, acknowledging that we just don't unfortunately see that number of fatal and serious injuries, or even just injuries alone, but we know we have things that we need to address. So that program is work.
And one of the other comment, HSIP still only does construction.
Correct, yep.
So try to think ahead, PE, NEPA right of ways. You could still apply for that under our SDPG, the regional fund, and get your projects ready for shovel and apply HSIP funding for construction. So even though we might be capped at 20 million, this adds 22 million to the pot that we might be able to take advantage of if we have shovel ready construction projects.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Is there anything from the back on agency updates, anything else? So we move into additional business. Just have one quick thing, for those of you that may have known Jack Borgmeyer, he passed away last Sunday. So if you knew Jack and you didn't know that, sad news. Jack was started Midwest right away. I worked with him back in the day at Cook-Michael, and great person, and we're all gonna miss him. So I just wanted to share that with anybody that maybe had not heard. Any other additional business today? Okay. Since we don't have a voting quorum, I guess we don't need to call for adjournment. So I guess nice seeing you guys.
Right there. Suck down some sauna.
Yeah, here. Go out and enjoy the weather.
But 90+ degrees.
There. There's no baseball game today, right? The next one is, the first of the championship series is tomorrow, right?
Yeah, very
Yeah. So, okay.